Welcome to Samut Rage Cage. As far as our opening hand goes, yes, we'll keep on this one. I kind of like it. We've got Hour of Devastation, we have Kiki Jiki, and we've got Double Red, we've got Return. Yeah, we'll make this one work. I like to see a little bit more action in our opening hand, but, beggars can't be choosers. It's a pretty solid opening hand. Definitely good enough not to send it back. So let's go and lead off with, I guess at this point, yeah, might as well just go and lead off with Temple Garden because both of our tap lands will come into play untapped, so that'll be pretty good. So anything else, we're going to go and pass the turn over to our opponent. All right, our opponent's going to lead off with Mana Vault. So let's see what we draw to. Draw to Misty. And yeah, since we don't really have anything for two, let's go ahead and go for Misty. Let's go ahead and crack Misty. And let's grab ourselves a red-green source. Let's just go and grab the Sheltered Thicket. That way it comes into play tapped. We don't have to worry about it later. And then I pass it over to our opponent. So we're playing Samut, Voice of Dissent, the official Rage Cage Samut leader. Flash, Double Strike, Vigilance, and Haste. Other creatures in control have Haste. Then for a 1 white mana activation, untap another target creature. Playing against Morophon, the Boundless. So let's see what we... Sword of Truth and Justice. Oh yeah, I like that. So let's go for Rootbound Crag. Let's go for Sword of Truth and Justice. And we're definitely going to be using this Return to Dust on Candelabra over there because there's... Candelabra never does anything safe and and not busted. So the longer it sticks around, the more I get concerned. So play against Morophon, the Boundless. As it enters the battlefield, choose a creature type, then spells of the chosen type you cast cost Woodbreaking less to cast. This effect reduces only the amount of colored mana you pay. Then other creatures you control of the chosen type get +1/+1. So we did cover both commanders. It is officially free time. Let's have some fun. Now, as far as this Samut deck, this is the deck I played a long time ago. And I used to play it a lot, but then I kind of, stopped playing it. And somebody mentioned, hey, why don't you kind of retweak this and kind of update it? So I did do a little bit of updating. It still has the same core concept to the deck, and that is basically just kind of this Naya, Force of Vigor. But we don't have a way to, I guess at this point, since we're just going main phase, I think we just go Return to Dust, and that way we leave Force of Vigor on. I think that'll be good. Yeah, let's go for that. So we're going to go for Return to Dust on Mana Vault and Candelabra. That's going to be double white. And then next turn, we can at least go for Samut, and that's going to allow us to kind of maybe trade with Morophon. So that should be a good option for us. So let's go for the Return to Dust. We're going to turn that Candelabra into dust and pass the turn over to our opponent. But yeah, so this is kind of Naya Combo or Naya Cutthroat, whatever you want to call it. The main combo that we are running in this deck is we are running Kiki Jiki, Zealous Conscript, Splinter Twin, we have Village Build Ringer. We're basically just running a lot of ways that we can go infinite if we need to. So that's kind of what we're trying to do. Outside of that, it's just kind of standard Naya control. We've got a lot of answers for artifacts and enchantments. You can see we've got Force of Vigor and different things like that. So let's go for Forest. And do we want to just rip a Kiki Jiki and have an open Kiki Jiki on the battlefield? I think that sounds kind of fun. Yeah, let's go for that. So let's just go for an open Kiki Jiki. That's going to be 1, 2, 3. If our opponent has some removal or a counter spell, they've got it. Then next turn we can go for Samut. And let's just go and pass the turn over to our opponent. So next turn, if we hit the land drop, we're going to be able to go Samut and get Rancor onto Samut. Now, if you've never played Samut, playing Rancor in Samut is such a good thing. Being able to have a double strike 5/4 with Trample is one of the best things out there, especially if you can get down like a Sword of Truth and Justice or something like that. So we're going to go and get down Kiki Jiki, and that way it'll make any sort of creature that we get down a little bit better, and then we can slowly start trying to put some pressure on our opponent with Samut swinging across. So they're going to get off to a pretty good start. They bounce back from that Candelabra, so they're going to leave their creatures open. So run into Kessig Wolf Run, okay. But that does allow us to go for Samut. So let's do this. So we're going to have Kessig Wolf Run enter the battlefield. We could Force a Vigor on Exploration, but they're down to 2 cards in hand, so we're just going to leave it like that. And we want Sword of Truth and Justice on Kiki Jiki. Protect it from white and blue. That does protect us from Sisay, but Morophon is colorless. So I think at this point we just kind of flash in Samut on our opponent's turn. I think that'd be pretty good. That does allow us to leave up Force of Vigor, and we can exile Rancor if we want to, but at this point in the game, I think Rancor is going to be a better option for us, because we get Rancor onto Samut next turn. We also get down Sword of Truth and Justice, and that really makes it hard for, because that's going to be a 5/4, and it's going to make it a 7-6. So it's going to be hard for our opponent to stop Samut sitting at a 7-6 double strike. Outside of the actual combos in the deck, just simply getting down Samut, and we're not running a ton of Voltron in here. We've got Sword of Feast and Famine in here, and we've got Sword of Truth and Justice, and they're just such high impact with Samut that if you just get down Samut and get one of these pieces of equipment onto her, it's just really hard for your opponent to stop that in 1v1 commander. So opponent's going to go for Deserted Temple, untap the Ruins, and enters the battlefield. They're going to be able to add some extra mana to their mana pool. They're going to go for Bear Umbra. Okay. And that's going to allow them to untap their land. So I think at this point, we're going to have to exile Rancor. Yeah, let's do that. So we're going to exile Rancor, and that still allows us to flash in Samut, which is going to be really good. So we're going to target Bear Umbra and Exploration. And man, our opponent's getting getting hit pretty hard with this one. So we're going to go for that. We're going to destroy both of those. That's going to leave Morophon back as just a 6-6. And, you know, just really need to slow the roll of our opponent. Now, we have gotten extremely lucky to get 2 2-for-1s with Return to Dust and Force of Vigor, but hey, that's Commander sometimes, so I will take it. So let's go and flash in Samut. There we go. We're going to have Samut enter the battlefield, and then let's see what we run into. Run into a Catacombs, which is not exactly what we want to see, but yeah, we can make it work. So let's go for Truth and Justice onto Samut. That's going to be 1-2, and we can still at least kind of pump up Samut just a little bit more. Yeah, because it's going to be double strike. I think I kind of like swinging in. Because we can go for the +X on Samut. Yeah, that'll be good with that first strike. So let's go and push in with Samut. Samut does have Vigilance too, so that's one of the good things about Samut and just running like a little bit of Voltron in there is that you can, you know, kind of have, you just kind of have this all-in-one Voltron commander. So let's go for this Kessig Wolfrun activation. We're going to go for Catacombs Crack. We're going to grab ourselves a Taiga Uppercut, and then go for Kessig Wolfrun. That's going to be green, red, and then 1 and 2. So X is going to be 2. Not the best Kessig Wolfrun, but you know, simply just having this ability to kind of first strike, get rid of Morophon. We're going to be able to get a +1 counter onto Samut. Choose this one. And then this is the cool thing about, look at that. So this is in between first strike and regular damage. So now we're going to be able to deal 9 on the back. Oh, look at that. This is this is some good value. Look at that. This is some good magic right here. Click OK. That's going to make Samut an 11-10. And then anything else, we're going to go and pass turn to our opponent. So pretty much next turn, we've got the win on commander damage. So we'll see if our opponent can stop this. They're going to have some sort of answer for Samut, and we'll be able to swing in. But that's how powerful it can be sometimes, is the fact that you just get a Sword of Truth and Justice onto her. You've got the first strike interaction to where you get the, and if you don't understand how that works, so basically with Samut having double strike, she's going to deal first strike damage, and then she deals regular damage. So the way it's handled in combat is you have your first strike damage, you put any triggers on the stack. Once you have your first strike damage, Sword of Truth and Justice says, hey, whenever it deals damage to a player, put a +1 counter on it. So once you have the first strike damage, you get that +1 counter onto Samut, then it's still going to count towards the next one, which is just a really nice feeling. So we have an open Kessig Wolfrun, so let's just go and push in with the entire crew on this one. Unfortunately, we didn't get any sort of good Kiki-Jiki action, but we're going to go and push in. That's going to be a 9-10 coming across. Even if they block for 4, that's still going to be lethal. So let's go and push in. That's going to be 9. No blocks from our opponent. Yeah, they're just going to go and let this one go. So we're going to click OK on this one. Give Samut a little extra. There we go. Choose this one, and then add the counters onto Samut. Click OK. That's going to make it 11-12, and that will be 30 total commander damage right there, and putting our opponent down to 0. So, opponent had Ugin in the hand. So, had we not been able to, that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 with Field of Death. So, very thankful that we got down Samut really quick. And like I mentioned, you know, if you're thinking about building Samut, you know, simply just having some sort of power and toughness bonus with that double strike just makes it hard for your opponent to get any sort of board state established. So very thankfully, we were able to dodge Ugin the Spirit Dragon with Samut. So if you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe. Thanks. Bye. Welcome to Samut, Voice of Dissent, the Samut Rage Cage. As far as our opening hand goes, we've got Birds of Paradise on Enlightened Tutor for a Mana Crypt into Harmon. I mean, is that what we want to go? Yeah, we'll go. We'll make this one work. I always like kind of keeping a one-lander, and we're playing against Nightwing, which is definitely a friend of the channel, so huge shout out to Nightwing. Hopefully we have a fun game, and excited to see what sort of Teshar deck we have. Opponent's actually going to lead off with Mana Crypt themselves, so this should be a pretty interesting match, and let's see what else they get down That's going to be Chromatic Sphere. So if you haven't played against Teshar, if you haven't played Teshar, highly recommend it. Go into YouTube, type in Teshar Jolt. You'll be able to find my Teshar videos. And, ooh, it is it's some good magic. All right, so we run a Rootbound Crag. So this hand definitely gets a lot better. Even if we don't go for that line of play, we're still going to go for that. So let's get this popped out. We definitely want to find ourselves, I was about to say we need to grab a white source for Enlightened Tutor, but Scalding Tarn will not find a white, no, excuse me, but it's not going to find a white source that allows us to go for Birds of Paradise. So let's go for Taiga. We can still use Bird of Paradise for that white mana during our upkeep. Yes, I don't like that. So we're going to go for Taiga Uppercut, and then go for Birds of Paradise, have that enter the battlefield. And then anything else, we're going to go and pass the turn over to our opponent. We're playing Samut, Voice of Dissent, Flash, Double Strike, Vigilance, and Haste. Other creatures you control have haste. Then for a 1 white mana activation, untap another target creature. Playing against Teshar, Ancestral's Apostle. Flying whenever you cast a historic spell, which is going to be an artifact, legendary, or a saga. Return target creature card with converting mana cost 3 or less from the graveyard to the battlefield. And there you go. So it's officially free time. We can have some fun. Now with Teshar, I had somebody that wanted to build Teshar, and they mentioned, you know, there's like a lot with my build of Teshar. If you find my deck list, we're running into land, so we don't necessarily have to Tireless. We don't have to Enlighten Tutor for Mana Crypt just yet, so we still got Tireless Tracker. So let's go Rootbound Crag. Let's go for Tireless Tracker. And let's just start to cash in some clue tokens. I think that would be pretty good. So we have Tireless Tracker enter the battlefield, and pass turn over our opponent. But yeah, with Teshar, you know, Teshar is definitely one of those decks that you can build on a budget. You know, there's a lot of Moxes in there, and the way I told our opponent, not my opponent, but somebody is asking if they could build Teshar without including, you know, like Mox Opal. How much is Mox Opal? Let's see real quick. So Mox Opal, I play Mindcrank in Modern. Yeah, Mox Opal is like $100. Might have to sell mine. But Mox Opal, I used it in my Wrath of God. That's definitely a really good value play on that, because that cuts us off white mana, which is not good. So let's get rid of our creatures, and I'll kind of finish that Mindcrank story here in a second. So we run into Shaman of the Forgotten Ways, which we can only spend that on creature spells. So yeah, let's still go and go for it. So let's have Shaman enter the battlefield. And that's going to be 2. That's basically just going to allow us to go for Samut, which we can hopefully kind of keep the pressure up on our opponent. So we'll kick it back over to them. But yeah, Mox Opal, it's like $100 in paper, and I don't know how much it is online, but it's typically like half that price. But long story short, you know, you don't have to have all the Moxes to make a good Teshar deck. You can definitely build some like value pieces. You know, there's a lot of things where you can get, it's like the, let me pull up Teshar. Because the thing that makes Teshar fun is that you can just build this kind of value engine. Yeah, where you return target artifact card with 1 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. And the main thing is, long story short, if you want to build Teshar, the Moxes make the deck work great. Really well. That's what it does. But if you don't have access to the Moxes, you don't want to buy the Moxes, you can still build a value build of Teshar where you're still bringing stuff out of the graveyard. You're just not trying to win on the spot right then and there. So at this point, since we don't run into a land, let's just go and go for Samut. That's going to be double Shaman of the Forgotten Ways. Let's go double white. And then let's just tap out and start swinging in with Samut. I think that'd be pretty good. So we're going to have Samut enter the battlefield. Let's go and push in for a 3-4. And that'll put us on next turn being able to at least go for Xenagos, which sounds pretty cool. So we're going to go double strike. We don't have trample at this point right now, so we're at least going to kind of keep the board clear of creatures. And they're only down to 1 card in the hand, so that's definitely going to be good for us. So anything else, we're going to go and pass the turn to our opponent. But let's go and let's find Teshar. There we go. Ancestral's Apostle. So there's some pretty cool things you can do with Teshar. You know, stuff like Ranger Captain of Eos. You've got Salvage Scout, which is going to bring stuff out of your graveyard. I'm trying to find the, or things like Kami of the False Hope. So with Kami of the False Hope, you know, you can just kind of, it's like Spore Frog. You can just fog your turn out. So it's just kind of fun to build this mono white deck that is not really combat oriented. It's kind of just weird, like kind of egg style deck where, you know, most of the time you are going to be trying to combo off with like something like Aether Flux Reservoir. That basically gives you the win condition. But long story short, you can just go for value piles. It's going to be stuff like sacrificing Fiend Hunter to get permanent exiles, Pilgrim's Eye to get lands on the battlefield, Thraben Spectre to get those clue tokens. So there's a lot of things that you can do. And what happened? Oh, there we go. So our opponent went for Dispatch on Samut. So if that ever happens to where I'm just talking and I don't, our commander disappears and I don't know what happened, it's because I'm looking at my second monitor. So our Samut got hit with Dispatch, so that's unfortunate. And I think we're going to go for Talisman because with Talisman, that's going to allow us to go for Harmonize because we need to find a few more lands. So we're going to go ahead and, well, yeah, let's go and swing it with Shaman. Yeah, that's fine. Let's go and swing it. Every point of damage matters in this one. All right, so Shaman's going to go into the red zone for 2, knock him down to 34, and we'll go and pass the turn. But yeah, that's enough about Teshar. Long story short, Teshar is a ton of fun to play, and so if you don't have a lot of the pieces to build Teshar, you know, if you want to get into the deck, I highly recommend it. It's a very fun deck to play. It's one of those decks that you're not going to win every single time, but there's just a lot of lines of play that you don't really realize are in the deck because I kind of like it's almost like a oops, I combo off deck sometimes to where you're like, oh, yeah, if I sacrifice this and then cast this and then do this, and then you just kind of create this weird loop that you don't really see or you don't really know about sometimes. So it's kind of one of the cool things about it. So yeah, just kind of keep that in mind. But anyway, let's talk about Samut. So we've updated Samut, added a few different cards to the deck, and if you haven't seen Samut before, Samut is basically my Naya kind of combo deck or my Naya Cutthroat artifact and kind of enchantment. We don't, oh, there we go, 3 visits. That is definitely nice. So yeah, we want to go 3 visits because we need to get some sort of white mana going on our side of the battlefield. So let's get this popped out. Yeah, just in case we need Teferi's Protection. So we're going to go Savannah, and anything else, we're going to go and pass the turn. Now, we don't want to swing in because we don't really want to put Mere Retriever into the graveyard. That's going to give them an option to bring some stuff back out. So at this point, we're just going to hold the turn. Ooh, we could have gotten down Xenagos. Well, that kind of cuts us off at Light and Tutor to Teferi's Protection. So yeah, I kind of like that playing a little bit. And once we get down Xenagos, we can hopefully try to go for a Samut, because that's going to give it plus X, and does it gain Trample? No, it just simply just gains haste. So they're going to get the Aether Flux Reservoir, or just things like Treasure Hunter. You know, whenever it enters the battlefield, return target artifact card from your graveyard. So you just get this point to where, you know, if you're just looping Chromatic Sphere, you can cast it 1 less off Cloud Key. You can sacrifice it to draw a card. So it's just kind of like things like this. You know, you're not going to win every single game, but just getting these interactions going to where it's kind of like taking this very, very scenic route to your destination. So let's say that you take, you know, it takes 45 minutes to get there, but you end up taking an hour and a half. You still get there. It took a long time, but you know, you got to see a lot of cool things. You got to do a lot of cool things. And it works perfectly in a Skull Clamp deck, too. So opponents could be getting off to a pretty nice start. Let's see. Yeah, we need to kind of find a... I don't think... We have a lot of artifact and enchantment destruction in this deck, but we don't have access to... like something like I don't have Oblivion Ring in here, which is something I probably want to add after this game. Yeah, we've got Return to Dust, we've got Force of Vigor, we've got Return to Nature. So we do have a lot of options to deal with artifacts and enchantments, but we just don't we need to kind of dig into them, unfortunately. Now, what we want to do is if we have Aether Flux Reservoir, if they keep casting spells, if they go for the Aether Flux Reservoir activation, we're going to go for Teferi's Protection in response to that. Especially once they crack it, and I think that'll be pretty good for us because they're gonna have to pay that live, and I think that let's see. All right, so let's go and force them to do that. Let's see if they play around the Teferi's Protection, because if they don't play around it, then we've got it. So it's gonna be 1 white mana. They're gonna go for Skull Clamp on Mere Retriever. That's gonna bring back Chromatic Sphere. Yeah, okay. All right, I think we got this. So we'll see if they end up forcing the Chromatic Sphere line of play. All right, so they're going to go for Mox Amber. It's going to put them at 55. And we're going to go for Teferi's Protection. And so we're going to protect ourselves from the Aether Flux Reservoir. And I think at this point, I don't know if they can combo off anymore. Yeah, there we go. So we're going to fog out this Aether Flux Reservoir. Look at that. Oh, man, that was... very timely that we ran into that 3 visits to get that. I don't think our opponent has a loop. I mean, they've got Skull Clamp, so I think they are limited to the amount of mana they have. I think they can loop equal to the amount of mana that they have, but outside of that, since they don't have a way to sacrifice artifacts, I don't think they can do it. Now, they will gain some life with Aether Flux Reservoir, so will make it hard for us to stop this, but that's what makes Commander fun. And so they're going to go for Mox Diamond. Yeah, because as long as you can keep generating mana, they can keep it going. But I don't really see any sort of infinite loop. So let's go and let them do this turn, and then we'll jump into a commentary on my turn. Okay, so our opponent got back up to 50 after casting some stuff. I may have misspoke when I said that they don't have an option to somehow loop, because like I mentioned with Teshar, and thankfully I played this in Magic Online, because if I didn't, I would be in a very, very bad spot of like, I don't know what I'm doing, and thankfully Magic Online puts all the triggers on the stack. So let's see what we draw to. I don't think there's anything that we can do about this one. And they're going to go 50 damage. Good game. They're going to get it on the back end. At least we made our opponent sweat for a little bit. So we're going to let that Aether Flux Reservoir hit us. It's going to put us down to negative 23 and get a game to our opponent. I mean, that's what makes Teshar a lot of fun, is you just get some loops going. You get Aether Flux Reservoir, and it is pretty brutal. So anyways, if you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe. Thanks. Bye.